Good evening.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. I was sharing with volume because I have a video and so it was disabling my microphone. So I guess I will share without volume and then when it's time I'll share again. I'm not as familiar with Zoom as you probably know because we don't use it. Um, can you see?
Yep.
And you can hear me. So that's
Yep.
good. And then I can move the slides. Perfect. Little bit
Yeah.
of yeah. And I figure if San Francisco, that is the vision of the ending of a program.
Wait, are you in San Francisco?
No, I'm not.
Oh,
But it's the background.
ah,
Frankly, I just picked the background and then I made a story to
there
go
you
with
go.
it. So we
Nice.
have Dr. Donato. Daniel is there.
Hi,
Can you hear
Dan.
us? Yeah. So you may need to like trim the video because the first um, 20, 30 minutes is nothing. Me trying to figure out how to share my presentation.
Oh, no problem. Oh, I'm not going to be able to stay for the whole thing tonight. But I'll get things started and say hi and catch
Yeah,
up with everybody, and then we'll get going.
sounds good. The chat.
So
Open that too. Oh, here we go. I've got it. And the US is playing now, but for the
At
World
10
Cup,
o'clock. 10
8
o'clock.
o'clock.
Yeah.
Oh, 10 o'clock.
10.
Oh, I messed up. Okay, good, good, good. But, it's they're already advancing, so this game is not particularly important.
I was told if they lose, it's a problem, though.
No. Well, it might be a problem with who they're. No, it's not a problem because they're going to advance no matter what. They're the first one in the group. That's not going to
Really?
change.
Huh.
Hmm.
I heard the opposite. Oh, well, I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
know.
I'm pretty. Unless somebody can correct me, I'm
who
pretty
who
familiar with this type of
who are
things.
we talking about?
The
US and
World Cup.
Turkey tonight.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, the U.S. It doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter exactly.
Yeah,
So it's actually would be good to play like the JV
Oh,
tonight.
wow. So they'll advance either way then?
yeah,
Yes,
because
and they're
no,
also
based on
first.
points and goal differential at this point, nobody
Okay.
can get more points in that group, so they'll advance as first in that group.
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Huh.
I've been watching the World Cup and paying a lot of attention since 1978. Been doing like charts. Even if Italy is not playing this year, I'm very um, invested in the World Cup.
Yeah, I know nothing, so cool.
Um, yep. So maybe we can wait a few minutes.
Yeah.
The Netherlands are playing in Kansas City right now, and the whole city
Yeah,
center had the orange parade. It was. I didn't get to watch it, but I saw some pictures of it. It was pretty wild. It was cool.
it's
And
pretty cool to follow what's happening.
and
Yeah.
Turkey, I mean uh Germany lost to Ecuador today, right?
They did.
Yeah.
Also, did not matter.
And
For
Tur-
Germany.
one of our residents, I was just at a visiting professor dinner that I left early. And one of our residents is from Germany. And so she was like, we were giving her a hard time, and she was totally upset about it, but I guess if it doesn't matter.
It's a good time
Anyway,
to, it doesn't matter. Cool. So we have a few more people. Okay.
so how's everybody doing? Anything new? Any updates that anybody can tell us? Anything good or exciting or anything?
I've got one.
Nice.
Cool.
Um, Myself and three of my partners found out that we were inducted to the American College of Surgeons today, and I was debating going in September, and Lisa David said, Joe McCarthy is being recognized for all of his work with distraction osteogenesis, and we should try to have a really good plastic surgery showing at the ACS this year. So I've never been, but we'll go this year for the first time.
That's great. I mean, he's getting the Jacobson Award, right? I think that's
Yes.
what he's getting. Yeah.
So,
Um, which is really exciting. That is Chris, when is it? When is the when and where?
It is the end of September, that last weekend of September in Washington, D.C.
Hmm. I've never
congratulations.
I've never went to a an ACS meeting, um hmm. I
Yeah,
paid
I was there last year. I mean, you think PSTM is big. I mean, it's just massive.
Oh, yeah.
So huge. It's crazy.
I've paid enough dues over the years, but never went to one of the meetings. I should have. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I think they put you in a cap and gown if that's any enticement,
Oh boy.
in case you miss that. You
Yeah.
march in and with your whole inductee group, and it's a lot of pomp and circumstance.
Yeah.
But it's like a sea of like 1,000 people getting inducted. It seems like a lot of people.
Oh.
Like I went to the induction and it was just so many people.
Hmm. Anyway, great. Well, we're almost 8:05. Hey, thanks everybody for joining us. This is recorded, so if you haven't been if you're not able to be here, you'll be able to consume it again asynchronously. I'm not able to stay the entire time, but I'll get things kicked off. I just wanted to say hi to everybody and catch up and turn it over to Martina, who you know well. She was with us for mods one, two, and three. I've been working with Peter Rubin and the professors from the different business schools that are going to be going through the next set of modules at the ASPS meeting, and it looks like it's coming together really nicely, which I'm excited about. But tonight, Martina's gonna, hopefully you guys had a chance to read Cotter's article about leading change, and she's going to lead the recitation tonight about that article. And as I said, I won't be able to stay the whole time, but I hope everybody has a good end of the week, and I'll see you very soon. Martina, it's all yours.
Thank you. And thank you for the introduction. So I'm very excited about, first of all, being back with you guys since we were together in Hawaii. What a wonderful location and a wonderful program. It was really great to get to meet each of you also during the disc session, we really got to meet each other very well. But today I'm going to talk about a very important topic that is always current, which is leading change. And we're going to be utilizing John Cotter's article from actually 1995. So it's a few years old as the basis of kind of the framework of the conversation, but I'm kind of going a little bit with maybe additional information as well. Leading change, being a change agent is a very important leadership skill. Change is definitely something that is constant, in your professional, personal life. And in healthcare, it's absolutely something that it's important to be equipped to do, not just in the sense of experiencing change, but also as a leader to be able to lead your team to go through the change and also still maintain a good culture in the team. So I'm going to get started and I'm going to sort of like follow a little bit Cotter's framework on the article. We are, in fact, the point of view of the article is looking at where change efforts typically break down. And then we are going to look at a discussion where I also count on your engagement to share some world leadership situation, particularly your situations that maybe you have thought about where this particular article applies. And also look at what leaders should do differently to be able to drive successful change. And also, in particular, looking at how you as a leader have a very important role in how you influence how your team experiences change. You're, in a way, the translator of change for your team. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with a little bit of background information. So the article is, as I mentioned, from 1995. So it's a little bit, has over 30 years old. It's a very fundamental and important article on change. Dr. John Cotter was a professor at Harvard Business School. He was born in 1947. He's still very active. And he wrote several different publications related to change. And in fact, I'm going to talk a little bit later about how this concept evolved further. But in the particular article, he studied over 100 organizations that were undergoing important transformation efforts. And he also found out that a great deal of those organizations, their success, their change effort actually failed somewhat. There was a few that were very successful, but many of them had issues along the way. And he was, so this article was sort of the lenses of this article was to look at diagnosing the reason why these efforts change. And so in particular, he realized that the failure followed these predictable patterns. And so he was looking at how change breaks down. And in particular, he noticed that change follows a series of phases. And that each of these phases really matters. And often leaders skip specific phases on the change process. And that leads to having a really negative impact and causing risk. In addition to that, there could be errors in each of the phase that can also have a devastating impact. And also most leaders, even the most capable, and even when, change efforts ultimately are successful, but, even the most capable leader have a tendency to make at least one error in this process. So with this, I'm presenting sort of the framework of the articles, the big picture first, and then I was going to sort of lead a discussion on each of the particular errors. So as you can see, he came up with 8 errors: not establishing a clear enough sense of urgency, not creating a powerful enough guiding coalition, lacking a vision, under communicating the vision by a factor of 10, not removing obstacles in the new vision, not systematically planning for and creating short-term wins, declaring victory too soon, and not anchoring changes to the corporation's culture. So I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to see in your experience uh, in which one is the error that you most commonly have experienced. You can either speak up or maybe write the number of an error in the chat. So I'm going to start, the vision, not communicating the vision or not communicating the vision well. I can see that there is an agreement that this is definitely the communication in particular, the preparation of the team for change. That is absolutely one of the most important and crucial typical mistake that is made, in particular, not communicating the why of a change well. I can absolutely agree with that. So we're going to now look at each of the errors and then kind of discuss, first of all, what a leader should do, and also, in your particular instance, where have you seen these particular errors? So first of all, not establishing a clear sense of urgency. So change happens when it is a response to a perceived crisis, risk of inaction, or an opportunity that a leader sees in the future. So it's either, preventing something negative from happening or catching an opportunity for something even better to happen in the future. So that's generally the root of all change. Of course, change is uncomfortable. We, generally human beings are sort of like built in a way to sort of preserve the status quo, most of us, and so but we can become a little bit complacent. So even Kotter was saying, change is necessary, and so it's very important for leaders to be able, even before, if possible, even before change is announced, to be able to help their team members see the need for this change, creating an awareness that the change is needed. So that's generally like a failure that can happen sometimes when leaders don't create this awareness. So I'm going to ask, from your experience, where have you seen this show up? If anybody'd like to share, but in particular, what would help create this sense of urgency that the change needs to happen and needs to happen right now?
Well,
Henry.
yeah, I
Yes.
can. I mean, this wasn't one I was directly involved in, but not long after I finished my training at Yale, the general surgery program lost their accreditation because of persistent work hour violations. So that definitely created well, was a crisis and created a sense of urgency that things needed to change regarding work hours for the residency. So that definitely drove that after that at that point. So
Yeah, so it was like it's more like probably a risk of inaction. It was more on the crisis side of things and potentially an opportunity. Sometimes the two can be connected because you can have, I don't know about this particular case, but you can have a negative, like a threat that you can see in the horizon that you can also potentially, it can become an opportunity. But thank you for sharing that. Um, Anybody has any other examples of a situation that, and particularly how leader can help create that sense of urgency? I have to scroll 3 by 3 to be able to see you all.
Uh,
I
well,
think you have to communicate clearly what the problem is and then what your suggestion for the change.
Yeah. Even before you communicate the change, if you have the luxury of time that you know something is coming, um, being able to make people aware of the circumstances that are going to cause the change, particularly when it's a negative change, you know, so preparing the environment, for example, unfortunately, like maybe like sharing, for example, something negative that may be in the environment that may cause the organization to have to make some changes. It would be much more understood once when you are ready to communicate it, if you have prepared that environment to understand the need for it. Does it make sense?
Well, so Martina, can I ask about something that was in the reading that John
Yeah.
Cotter? So he mentions for this number one that he mentions as an example in terms of creating a sense of urgency that one executive in a business deliberately engineered the largest accounting loss in the history of the company in order to get Wall Street to put pressure on it. But I admit, as a doctor, yeah, and he didn't really go on to explain that, right? He just simply said, "Oh, that's one way to generate change." But for as a doctor, like me, purposely generating a crisis in the hospital, like having patients die just so that we can get more staffing, right? Or something. I don't know. There's something,
Yeah.
he didn't seem to make any kind of, maybe I was reading it wrong or I missed something else that he was saying, but he kind of said, "Oh, it's risky," but he called it one of the more successful examples of doing that.
I think you're right. That cannot be applied, for a hospital situation. But I think where it was getting at is being able to see the need for change. And so, in that case, that artificial situation kind of made them aware of the fact that it needed to change. But I would definitely not utilize it in a situation that you're in. But like a similar example would be to sort of like make employee aware, for example, of let's say there is a competitor that there are in an organization that has opened a new practice and has maybe a lot of patients are going to this new practice, and so that would be sort of potentially presenting a threat, for your particular practice, that so you need to be aware maybe that some changes need to be made. Maybe I don't know what would be a change that could go with that. Potentially, I don't know, expanding hours. I'm coming up with some potential scenario, but the idea that you are telling your team that this change is happening in the environment, so that they understand when you are going to then propose, the particular change, because it answers to that urgency. Great.
Thanks.
So I'm going to move on to the next part. The second component that was mentioned by Cotter was the idea of one of the errors is not creating a powerful enough guiding coalition, and so it's important to be able to create a group of people, a team that will be championing the change. And I know we spent a lot of time in the article discussing, how large that should be and the different people that should be composing the team. I kind of took a little different approach to this, which I wanted to expand a little bit. There's been so much content on change from 1995 to now, to present you with this model where it talks, it's actually from a LinkedIn learning training that was talking about being aware and anticipate the resistance that you can have during change. And so you're thinking about the different team members, sort of thinking about where they could be in this framework of support. Now, while this looks like a continuum, it doesn't necessarily go through these steps. But if you're looking to find a champion for to support your change, where would you look? What kind of supporter would you look to help you in this change?
And you need a combination of individuals that are kind of senior in a sense that they've been with the team for a while, but also some newer individuals that would can see the benefits long term of the change that you're trying to implement.
Yes, absolutely. It's important to have a mix of perspectives, because that's going to help you in implementing the change. As it comes to the support of a change, a natural inclination would be to engage the people that are already active supporters of the change, of an idea, to be able to champion to champion that with you. So to like looking at the active supporter as the people that are sort of very excited about the change, for them to be your champions of the change. I wanted to ask a little bit about those that are active resistors in the organization. What do you think? Who do you think those people represent, and what role could they have during change?
Certainly, they could represent the establishment, in terms of people that are in place prior to whatever change is trying to be instituted, and a general unwillingness to stray from the status quo. And I think that it could be a very powerful message to get some of those individuals on your side to be able to champion the new vision, as they will certainly have their own coalition that would come with them.
Absolutely. The people that are active resistors that are expressing, their issues with the change are people that, have the kind of psychological safety to tell you, and they can have also important information about maybe some of the things that people are worried about that you could address, and then kind of enlist them as allies. Greg, I see that you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to your point, getting that critical negative feedback could be incredibly helpful in making some kind of change. Like maybe they've analyzed something in a certain way or seen things that you haven't seen or accounted for that might be really important, or
Exactly.
might reveal that the change that you've proposed is not appropriate or not the right time. So having their input may save you a lot of grief as well.
100%. It in some ways almost need to reframe how you see them. It depends, how they if they're expressing constructive comments, but they are very often people that are high performers, and they really have concerns, and so it's important to pay attention to them, and even enlist them in your coalition. Potentially, so that they can kind of give you the voice of potential issues that you have not thought about. So just wanted, I know this deviates a little bit from the article, but in my opinion, this is something to think about. So I'm gonna move on to the next one, which is lacking a vision. It's very important as you are communicating the change to be able to give the picture of sort of like the end, the vision that you have of when the change is finished, what it is supposed to look like. What are your striving toward? And in fact, it's very often good to start sort of with the end in mind, and particularly when you want to inspire and motivate a person, to sort of enlist themselves in your change. It's much more important to let them know the why of the change, and inspire them with a vision of the future than really with a detailed plan on how to get there. Now, it's very important to also provide that information, but very often leaders are so concerned about the how that sometimes they forget to really explain the why well. So I'm gonna pause here to see whether this is something that you've experienced in any of the change where maybe there was a lot of time spent in explaining what people needed to do different, but not necessarily the why. Do you see that happening? Yes, I see that happening all the time. So even if maybe a specific example might be hard to come by, or hard to share, maybe, but just wondering if even when you communicate change, if this is something that you always keep in mind to be able to make sure that you communicate the why, which is very important. So the next error that was mentioned by Cotter is under communicating, and he was saying under communicating the vision by a factor of 10, which is a symbolic way of expressing it. I think that the way change is communicated and understood really shapes how it is even perceived and experienced. Never underestimate the importance of communicating the change. And in particular, for example, for changes that are not necessarily generated by you, but there might be cascaded down. I'm sure that in your organization, in your hospitals, you have situations like that. It's important that you, as a leader, you're able to translate what that particular change means to your team. So why and what this means for us are really both very essential. And sometimes, some leaders can be silent about, some of the changes that they hear, let's say, happening in maybe from higher leaders. But that's also something that in a way communicates as well. It's important to be consistent and to really help the team sort of understand how the change affects them. Do you have any example of how maybe the way change was communicated might have impacted your experience? That can be, for a work example, or it can be an example, for example, in maybe in your personal life, if that's easier. That basically how it was communicated really completely impacts the way it was experienced.
Well, I can't think of a specific example at the moment, but I'd say like when the change isn't communicated, like th something gets announced or, without any kind of preparation about it, or, I think, I guess maybe, I mean, this is kind of a minor example, but our last year, our GME office decided to change how they reimbursed our residents for things like travel. There used to be a reimbursement. They decided to, um, I think for administrative reasons, like to decrease costs, to essentially get rid of the reimbursement, and instead just add the money directly to the residents' paychecks. but they didn't really communicate it. So the residents were really upset that they lost the reimbursement, even though they still, in fact, they got more money because they kind of accounted for taxes, right? But because it wasn't clearly communicated, the residents still got upset because they felt like they were, they have to pay out of pocket now, even though, you know, logically it was still the same money. They were just getting the money up front now instead of having it, having to go through a reimbursement system. But yeah, there wasn't a really clear communication about
Yeah.
the change and why, and so residents still got upset in the end.
This is actually an excellent example, so I appreciate you bringing it up, where, first of all, potentially not communicating the why well, but also not communicating the fact that at the end of the day, it was sort of similar, uh, the same money, but the way that they were reimbursed was different, and fundamentally it didn't change. Got them to become upset because they really didn't understand. The communication was not done very well. So situations like that happen all the time. Also, and sometimes also leaders, they may not necessarily agree with some of the changes, and so that are happening, and so they don't. They avoid communicating them to their team because because they kind of struggle a little bit with that, and that's also a problem because they don't really help their team understand how that impacts them sort of personally, and also how to translate that into how it affects the team. So that's also very important. So another issue that can happen is in order to be able to enable the change. So one thing is to tell everybody we're changing. This is the vision that we have, but we also need to be able to set them up for success. And so removing the obstacles that there are in their course as much as possible. And leaders can do a lot to really remove these obstacles. I have a video for this that I want to show you that talks about this, the idea of removing the obstacles that can be also emotional. And so in order to do that, I'm going to quickly unshare and reshare so that I can turn on the volume because otherwise my microphone was muted. So let me stop sharing and then resharing with the volume, and I'll play the video.
Psychologists know that there are two systems in our brains, the rational system and the emotional system. Jonathan Haidt, who's a psychologist at NYU, came up with a great analogy for these two systems. He said, think of your brain as a human rider atop an elephant. The rider represents the rational system. That's the part of us that plans and problem solves. The rider might do some analyzing and decide, hey, I want to go that way. But it's the elephant, representing the emotional system, that provides the power for the journey. The rider can try to lead the elephant or drag the elephant, but if these two ever disagree, who would you bet on? The elephant has a 6-ton weight advantage, and it's exactly that power imbalance that makes adopting new behaviors very hard. If you want this duo to head a new direction, you also need to think about the path, which represents the external environment. This duo is more likely to complete a journey if you can shorten the distance and remove any obstacles in their way. So bottom line, if you want to lead change, you've got to do 3 things. Give direction to the rider, knowledge of how to get to the destination. You've got to motivate the elephant, which means tapping into emotion. And finally, You need to shape the path to allow for easy progress. That's how change happens.
So I'm going to temporarily unshare so that you can hear me. So what are your thoughts on this video? I chose to put it in this particular step because I did mention a little bit about some of the obstacles during change, but in general, what are your thoughts about the video?
I like the idea that the elephant is much larger than the rider, and the elephant is the emotional part. Because so often, as leaders, we really rely on the facts, and the emotions is what ultimately you need to tap into to get to it to achieve something. If people aren't emotionally on board, then you're not going to get very far.
That is so well said, and the fact that they depicted it with the elephant, to show how large it is and how important it is, the emotional component of that is I really like that they did that. So thanks for saying that. Yeah. Yes. So exactly. So when we think about removing obstacles, definitely there are the obstacles that are, maybe making connections, helping, making some phone calls to make sure that you can maybe smooth a transition with a particular relationship. Or maybe it has to do with equipment, it has to do with technology, things of that nature, but also very important to also think about the emotional component of that, and as much as possible to keep that in mind, because that can definitely be the resistance that I was mentioning earlier can also be an important component of change that as a leader you can help. So going back on the model, the next component of that is that sometimes leaders do not systematically plan for and create early wins. And it's very important to be able to show that there are some quick, early, even small wins to be able to show that the change is working. That not necessarily thinking that you have to show perfection, but even that there has been some progress in the direction is very important. Because those are some early indicators that the new way of doing things is working. And sometimes even being able to talk about the shared learning that the team has been able to do, during this particular first wins that you were able to share with the group. What are ways in which leaders can share these small wins with the team? Are there, in which particular instances, what are ways in which, as a leader, you can do that more with your team to be able to recognize them?
I would say just highlighting certain small things that have happened, small achievements, collectively with the group, and highlighting how some of these behaviors could be really positive for the group to see, and then appreciate that, and then in turn it can over time be incorporated into the culture. So, like for example, let's say you've got a group of faculty and you want to try to promote let's say writing, publishing papers in peer-reviewed journals. So when one comes out, you can kind of like post it in the office. You can like print out, put it up paper form, or circulate it by email, or other means as well, or bring it up at faculty meetings, let's say, stuff like that.
Yeah, those are really great examples. Exactly. So if you want to um, promote that to the faculty that you want them to write more articles, certainly be celebrating and an early win by one of the faculty, the fact that there's been this publication, in various ways. I think that's really a good idea. So thank you for sharing. So, for example, also as a leader, it's important to also be good role models, and be early adopters of a change that you're proposing as well, because that way the team can see that you really are invested in the change. So that is also very important. One of the errors is also the idea of declaring victory too soon. The early wins are certainly important, but they're not the end of the effort, right? And so, when you are celebrating an early win, that is not the sign. That is the sign that you want to continue and you don't want to stop. So it's important for leaders to continue to reinforce the change until it becomes the norm. And so, that would be a way to continue the momentum and not lose the momentum. And so these are sometimes some of the errors that you can see in organization where they are sort of like seeing something going well, and then they lose momentum because they sort of let go in that direction. For example, the example of a faculty would be maybe after a couple of articles have been submitted, then they don't continue with that effort, and they kind of think one and done. And so that's certainly something to also keep in mind. The last error is that's also very important, is to not anchor the change to the corporation culture. In fact, change becomes it needs to become the way that you do things around here. It really needs to become embedded in the culture. And so, as I mentioned earlier, it's important to model the change as a leader and to acknowledge people's effort during change. And it's important to be authentic as a leader and to to pay attention to how the change is impacting your team members, and in particular to acknowledge, for example, if someone is working extra hard because they're implementing the change. For example, in our organization, we're implementing a new EHR system that is in this effort that's called Bridges, where essentially we are converging into one system. This, of course, it's a monumental change, particularly for an organization of 100,000 employees. And this is going to mean that a lot of people are going to be working extra hours, and it's going to be a little bit harder at the beginning, to be able to do your charts and to really use the system. There is a little bit of a learning curve. And so it's important to explicitly recognize the effort and also the extra work that is involved in adapting with this change. But also it's important to validate the importance of this and when people start implementing, the impact that this change has, and make sure that that is not invisible or assumed. In fact, the best way to make sure that change becomes part of a culture is to continue acknowledging and those that are adopting the change and the impact of efforts to make sure that's celebrated and also expected, so that what's expected becomes the culture. So I want to basically, this article that Cotter wrote in 1995 was written from the perspective of diagnosis, the efforts, the change efforts, why they fail. Based on this article, Cotter actually wrote several other, did more research, and in 1996 actually wrote a book that's called Leading Change, where he actually came up in a proactive way of what are the ways what leaders should do to make sure that they affect change in a positive way. And in 2006, he wrote a leadership fable that was titled "Our Iceberg is Melting," which actually took the model and put it sort of in a form where it was in the early 2000s. It was very common to write leadership fables. For example, there was another book that was titled "Who Moved My Cheese?" That actually had mice and that basically to illustrate the concept. It was talking about the colony of penguins and their iceberg was melting, and so it was going through the same phases of change, but with essentially with we're looking at some animals instead of humans. So I was wondering if any of you had read or are familiar with the later work from Cotter that basically took the 1995 article and actually turned it into the model of change. I actually highly recommend, particularly the iceberg is melting, even though it's a kind of like a little bit of a cute story, but it's a very, very nice read, a very quick read, and it's really kind of showing all the different phases of change. And it's 11 years later, so there's a kind of a lot more content put into that concept. But essentially, when I was mentioning that the 1995 article that you read was the approach was about diagnosing the error but on the other hand, the later work of Cotter, which has really turned into the model that we still use today, is more proactive. So went from not establishing a clear sense of urgency to making sure the leader develop a sense of urgency, building a guiding coalition, forming a strategic vision, selling the vision, enabling the action. So from a kind of more of a reactive approach to a more proactive approach, generating short-term wins, sustaining acceleration, and then finally instituting the change. So we went from sort of his early research on that, based on his experience with this organization failing, to be able to develop the model that is how to lead change today. And so this is the model that a lot of organizations use. UPMC, for example, has developed sort of a change management toolkit that is based on this model, but it actually kind of calls these particular phases a little bit differently. But even though this all stems from research that is 20, 30 years old, it is very, very applied to today. And in fact, the most business schools still utilize these articles. So in conclusion, we sort of looked at the article. I'm interested to hear any type of thoughts about this particular article and model, and if what is your biggest takeaway, if there is anything that you would approach differently as a leader during change, because after having read this article.
I have a question for you. I mean,
Yeah.
the UPMC, the medical center, is this, I don't know, my experience with the medical centers has been basically just a dictation from the top down, not really going through any of these steps, just saying this is what needs to be done, period. Now, that might be because I'm not part of the certain leadership instituting that change. On the other hand, do you find that your institution is by going through these different steps is involving everybody from top down, top all the way down at some
Uh,
level?
Yes, I think in general there is definitely the desire and the intent to involve the people that are going to be affected by the change with the decision making. In fact, we try to have more and more physicians that are in leadership roles, so that we can have the perspective, not just physician but nurses, to have like teams that are a representative of various functions of the organization, so that they can sit at the leadership table and sort of understand how change is impacted before decisions are made. Now, it's sometimes hard for kind of at the local level in the teams to sometimes understand why some of the decisions are being made, and often because of sort of the failure a little bit to develop a sense of urgency. I see that that's a very often an issue. Maybe a little bit due to having different perspectives, and so not being able to fully capture the need, and so there is sometimes a disconnect. Kind of like a us versus them approach, where people kind of see the leaders as kind of disconnected. So this is being something that we're trying as much as possible to to overcome. Obviously, I'm talking in general terms, but for some of the large changes, and that's done by really making more leadership position available for physicians and people that really understand how it trickles down, and as well as communicating the need as much as possible. I hope this answers your question. It's hard when an organization this large.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I mean, I would say that when we instituted, say, when we changed over to Epic, one way that I liked how the organization did it is they had certain individuals train early on the medical record so that they could be facilitators, so that gave you a sense of belonging and involvement in the process, while also understanding why we're doing it.
We definitely have taken a similar approach, to our conversion, for lack of a better term, and also we've had some struggles and sort of learned along the way, because for example, because there was a group that was already using Epic, we thought that they were the first group that could be early adopters, and we thought that it would be easy, but we found out that the version of Epic was a little different than the version of Epic that we were changing to, and so there were issues that were not expected, and so and then the things had to be sort of recovered from there, and it's important to learn from not mistakes, because it wasn't really a mistake, it was just more like unexpected problems that we didn't think we were going to have. So yeah.
Good luck.
Thank you. It's huge. So any other observations or applications? I know that we are almost at the time, and I don't
Yeah,
know how the others.
just
Yeah.
kind of quickly, I mean, this framework came out about 30 years ago, and I'm sort of wondering if it requires some updating for, say, some of the younger people that we work with, say those in their 20s currently,
Yeah.
who may have a bit of a different mindset, and attitudes towards things like attention, for example. Um,
Mhm.
how can we frame this in a way that may resonate a little bit better than, say, some of these concepts from 30 years past?
Yeah, I think that when I was presenting, I was trying to bring some of them kind of more recent. For example, looking at the resistors, that wasn't something that was really addressed at the time. So I think the fundamental steps can be the same, but the word that they're applying, and particularly the human aspect of change, I think it needs to be emphasized more than it was, in my opinion, in the Cotter, in the early article of Cotter, and particularly with the newest generation. You really have to think about the what's in it for me much more. With converting what is the emotional appeal for a person to want to change. I believe that this is it's always been important, but I think it's even more important today.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So if there is one more either question or comment about the article and application, what you would do differently. I know that it's for us almost 9 o'clock. I'm sure you've had a very long day, depending on where you are in the time. So I hope you appreciated the session, as a way to sort of recap this concept and also introducing maybe some other concepts that were not touched by Cotter in this early article. I appreciate your engagement and looking forward to potentially reconnecting. And if you have any questions, this is my information. It's Bison HackBM or Bison HackBM, as everybody pronounces it, at upmc.edu. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Martina.
your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.